What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, legendary 4-division world champion who is unified WBC, WBA, super middleweight, 168-pound world champion, Mexican superstar boxer Saul Canelo Alvarez. He says he believes he's in his prime and will knock out undefeated 2-division world champion, who is the WBC reigning middleweight world champion, Jermall Charlo, within 4 to 5 rounds. Now, obviously, this fight has been talked about for quite some time, since Canelo Alvarez was the champion at 154 at junior middleweight. Then Jermall Charlo became Canelo Alvarez mandatory at 160. And Canelo Alvarez, he petitioned, according to Mauricio Suleiman, WBC president, Canelo Alvarez, he petitioned to not have to be forced to honor the mandatory challenge from Jermall Charlo. And then Canelo Alvarez was since franchised and elevated. And then Jermall Charlo was handed the WBC title from Canelo Alvarez. And then he went on to defend the title against Brandon Adams. So Canelo Alvarez has been in a position where he could have fought Jermall Charlo for quite some time, but he chooses not to. So today, yesterday, he's training. Obviously, there's a lot of world champions in his gym. You know, Eddie Reynoso has a lot of champions and a lot of stars in his gym that he's training. He's training Andy Ruiz Jr., former unified heavyweight world champion. He's training Ryan Garcia, undefeated lightweight Mexican superstar title contender. He's training a plethora of fighters. Speedy Rashidi Ellis is a welterweight, undefeated title contender. He's training him. And obviously, he's training Canelo Alvarez. So Ryan Garcia is back in training, getting back in the swing of things. And Ryan Garcia starts to talk about his future and him fighting undefeated 2-division world champion, who's the WBA 130, 135, simultaneously holding world champion superstar boxer Gervonta Tank Davis. He says he still believes he's going to knock out Gervonta Tank Davis in 2 rounds. Then he says, and I believe Canelo Alvarez is going to knock out Avni Yildirim very early in the fight, February 27th, in 2 weeks. And then he says he hopes that Canelo Alvarez fights Jermall Charlo, because all of the chatter between Canelo Alvarez and Jermall Charlo, and that people believe that Jermall Charlo can beat him. So Ryan Garcia says he believes that Canelo Alvarez knocks out Jermall Charlo in 4 to 5 rounds. And then the reporter turns to Canelo Alvarez and says, Ryan Garcia believes that you're going to knock out Jermall Charlo in 4 to 5 rounds. Do you believe the same thing? And he says, absolutely, I will knock out Jermall Charlo in 4 to 5 rounds. I'm in my prime, right? He says, I don't see nobody beating me. And Jermall Charlo, I'm in my prime, so I knock him out in 4 to 5 rounds. This is what Canelo Alvarez had to say when Ryan Garcia mentioned it, and Canelo Alvarez backed it up. Let's listen.
That he knocks out Charlo in 5 rounds. 4 to 5 rounds. Right.
So you see, he said, I believe he knocks out Jermall Charlo in 4 to 5 rounds, okay? And he wants to see it. So obviously I cannot play the whole interview, but he says he wants to see it. He wants to, he hopes that Canelo Alvarez does it because there's a lot of chatter between Canelo Alvarez and Jermall Charlo's situation. So obviously, like I said, there's a long-lasting history with this situation, and Canelo Alvarez believes it too. Let's just listen to Canelo Alvarez respond when asked if, do you knock out Jermall Charlo in 4 to 5 rounds?
He believes it too.
You see, he said, do you believe, he asks Canelo Alvarez, do you believe that you'll knock out, are you in agreement with Ryan Garcia? Do you believe you'll knock out Jermall Charlo in 4 to 5 rounds? And he says, absolutely. And then he goes on to explain why. He says, the reporter says, yeah, he believes it as well. And then Canelo explains why. I'm in my prime right now, and I definitely would knock out Jermall Charlo. Well, you know, the issue that I have with this entire situation is that he had the opportunity to fight Jermall Charlo a few times in their career. They were in a position in the same weight class, you know, and he could have fought Jermall Charlo, and we could have got a conclusion to what happened in the ring. But instead, Canelo Alvarez has been maneuvering around Jermall Charlo. Now, Canelo Alvarez has a resume of 54 wins, 1 loss to Floyd Mayweather, 2 draws, 36 wins by way of knockout. He's 30 years old, stands at 5'8", 70.5-inch arm reach. He's fighting Avni Yildirim February 27th in 2 Saturdays, okay? So with that said, you know, instead of fighting Avni Yildirim, you could fight Jermall Charlo, right? And so when Jermall Charlo, after he beat Sergey Kovalev, you know, and Rocky Fielding, he was in a position, instead of fighting Rocky Fielding, instead of fighting Sergey Kovalev, he was in a position where he could have fought Jermall Charlo and proved to the world that Jermall Charlo can't beat him, that he could absolutely, he believes it. You see, he says it, you know, without any hesitation that he'll knock out Jermall Charlo within, you know, 4 to 5 rounds. Jermall Charlo, 31-0, 22 wins by way of knockout. He's 30 years age, 6 feet tall, with a 74-inch arm reach. Okay, so in June of 2019 is when Jermall Charlo was the mandatory challenger for Canelo Alvarez. He had a fight he had coming up with Brandon Adams, and then everybody expected to see, this was June 29th of 2019, that everybody expected to see Jermall Charlo against Canelo Alvarez for the mandatory position. And then just before the weigh-in, that Thursday before the weigh-in, so the fight was June 29th, so that June 27th, they awarded Jermall Charlo the full WBC middleweight championship and elevated Canelo Alvarez to franchise. So at that point in time, he could have fought, you know, Canelo Alvarez, and Canelo Alvarez could have fought Jermall Charlo, who was his mandatory, and it would have been a big fight. But he chose to go in a different direction. So this has been going on for quite some time, and we could have got a resolution to this if Canelo Alvarez would have just took on the challenge. And then everybody won't be saying that he's avoiding Jermall Charlo. You know, he could prove to the world that he can't beat Jermall. He can beat Jermall Charlo. Jermall Charlo can't beat him. Okay, I believe Jermall Charlo is a nightmare matchup problem for Canelo Alvarez. Not to say Canelo Alvarez can't win the fight, but Jermall Charlo has a very stiff, hard jab. He's very tall. He's very rangy. He's athletic, and he's big, and he's strong. He's not going to represent the same challenge of a Caleb Smith, who's tall, rangy, and didn't use any of his skill set to, you know, offset, you know, Canelo Alvarez. You know, with that said, Canelo Alvarez, he fought in 2016, May of 2016, he fought Amir Khan, right, in the WBC middleweight title at 160, okay? That's a fight that could have took place with Jermall Charlo, right? He fought James Kirkland in 2015. That could have been Jermall Charlo. He fought Liam Smith in 2016. That could have been Jermall Charlo. He fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. That could have been Jermall Charlo in 2017, okay? He beat Gennady Golovkin. I thought he beat Gennady Golovkin twice. Some people think he didn't. Then he fought Rocky Fielding. Instead of fighting Rocky Fielding, he had the opportunity. He could have fought, again, Jermall Charlo and make a statement, but he chose not to. So, you know, I have no doubt that Canelo Alvarez believes that he could beat Jermall Charlo. He's confident in his ability, but we need to see it more so than saying it, okay? Now, Jermall Charlo, he has another big fight on his hands, should he accept it, against undefeated 2-time super middleweight world champion, Mexican superstar boxer David Benavidez. But now Jermall Charlo doesn't have an opponent in sight, and Canelo Alvarez is campaigning at 168. After the fight with Caleb Smith, Jermall Charlo was asked about fighting Canelo Alvarez, and he said he'll go to 168 to fight Canelo Alvarez. I think it would be a great fight, but I think that Canelo Alvarez, this fight has been dragging out for years. And I think that if Canelo Alvarez truly deep down believed that he could beat Jermall Charlo, this fight would have came to fruition already. The fact that he's been dragging his feet and Jermall Charlo's been in position and he's been in position to fight each other and he chooses to go around him, it doesn't look good, okay? It just looks as if there's a reason in that you're avoiding fighting Jermall Charlo, and there's something that you see in Jermall Charlo that you don't like, that makes you uncomfortable, and so you choose to maneuver around him, okay? Just like the situation with David Benavidez. When David Benavidez was the world champion at 168, Canelo Alvarez never made mention that he wanted to be the undisputed champion at 168. As soon as David Benavidez lost his titles on the scale, Canelo Alvarez stated that he wanted to be the first undisputed Mexican 168-pounder. So that it raises a question that if you truly want to fight Jermall Charlo, because now you guys have been in 3 divisions in and around each other for the better part of 6 years, and Canelo Alvarez has the ability and the power to make the fight happen, and he's choosing not to. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.